Alongside Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price. 2-minute drill on Thursday. Josh Heupel met the media. What did we learn? Not a whole lot. He's not going to unveil who has COVID, who doesn't have COVID, who's injured, who's not playing. He's just not going to give anything away because he wants Pittsburgh to have to prepare for as much as they can prepare for.
Yeah, and so when asked about Tyon Evans, he had no comment on his status at this point. Obviously, there's a lot of talk out there about whether he's going to be available, not going to be available, and all those things. Jalen Wright certainly got a lot more work this week, and I think that's a guy they feel more and more comfortable with, as Coach Heupel said today. He did say Cooper Mays had gotten better over the last 24 to 48 hours. I still think it's going to be hard for him to plant and do what he needs to do against that defensive line. And if he can't go, maybe the most interesting note to come out is something you talked about in the Mailbag podcast, a heavier rotation at offensive guard this week if Jerome Carvin is playing center. That's not a knock on Ollie Lane, but I think they maybe want a little more physicality in there. Maybe a guy like Kingston Harris plays in there at the guard spot.
Yeah, and I think that's something you got to look for at least early on. I still think Cooper is super questionable. I know Coach Heupel tried to put on a good front, but those ankle injuries can be tricky. And if you don't play this week, he won't play next week, and they'll have him, more healthy for that Florida game in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and again, I think that Coach Heupel likes where his team's at in terms of their work this week and getting ready to play, but this is a serious challenge, a stiff challenge that Tennessee is facing in the lines of scrimmage, and obviously with a veteran quarterback that they do. This could be a little bit different looking Tennessee team if they're not at 100% on offense, as we just talked about those guys. The other question is Joe Milton. How much has he improved this week? Proof will be in the pudding when we get to Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, all the work he's put in since last Thursday, but again, none of that will show up until he faces another opponent, and that being Pittsburgh come Saturday. Jimmy Callaway should be good to go for this game. Healthier now than he's been in some time.
Yeah, and there's nothing new on Byron Young at this point.
I
would be surprised if he plays.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't know that they've gotten the definitive final word, but I don't think anybody on campus is anticipating him being available on Saturday. But nothing official from Tennessee at this point.
That's a quick snapshot from here on campus. He's Brent Hubbs. I'm Austin Price.